Mr. Speaker, thank you very much indeed for unexpectedly calling me in this debate, and it is a great pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Luton North and also the Honourable Member for Linlithgow and East Falkirk, both fellow members of the European Scrutiny Committee, and I very much enjoy the time we spend on that committee and what I think are some of the worthwhile discussions and debates and evidence that we take from witnesses. However, I have to, on this occasion, disagree with both honourable members when it comes to the issue of our economic growth. Listening to some of the contributions earlier on this afternoon from the party opposite, and certainly listening to the former Paymaster General in his remarks a few contributions ago, one would be forgiven for thinking that this country hadn't been left with the highest peacetime deficit that we have ever witnessed in our history. And I think it is quite remarkable that in 3 relatively short years, not only has that deficit now been paid down by a third, but we also see economic growth starting to come through. And I think the latest growth figures of 0.3% compared with our competitors, where France has gone back into negative growth and back into recession, and where Germany has only seen economic growth of 0.1%. I think that is a remarkable testament actually to the very difficult and invidious decisions that this government has had to make in clearing up the crisis that was left by the previous Labour administration. Certainly in my constituency, the evidence of economic growth is fortunately coming through. Today's unemployment statistics in Crawley showed that in April unemployment has now fallen to 3.4%, although I appreciate, as somebody who has previously been unemployed myself, it is 100% of a problem if you are one of that statistic. And that figure represents a fall on the previous month and indeed a fall on this time last year. Earlier on this year, Mr. Speaker, I was very honoured to open a new production line at Vedaxia in my constituency, which represented jobs coming back from China, back to Crawley, back to here in the UK, which again I think is a sign of growing confidence in the British economy. And in terms of infrastructure investment, I very much congratulate the Gatwick Airport for the significant investment that they are putting in, £1 billion to upgrade the terminals there, again making that an attractive international trade destination, which is not only to the benefit of my local economy, but indeed the UK economy as a whole. In the brief time that I have, Mr. Speaker, I would like to touch on the issue of the Eurozone and the future of the European Union and the significant drag that that has had on this country's economic growth. And I think it is an example of where a political project, which essentially is what the European Union is, rather than largely an economic project, which is what it should always have been, is a result of the Eurozone crisis that we see, that is meaning that demand in the Eurozone is down and therefore demand for British goods is down. But despite that, the performance of our government in engendering economic growth is, I think, remarkably impressive given that. I was pleased in the last session to serve on the Growth and Infrastructure Bill Committee, and I'm pleased to see in the Queen's speech further measures to reduce regulation and burden on business. And I think if we give the people of this country a choice on our future membership of the European Union, then we can further free ourselves to ensure that economic growth and the competitiveness of this country as a global free trading nation, a bridge between our historic links in the Commonwealth and our proximity to Europe, will mean that this country has a far brighter future.
Wisher.